Hi everyone, it's Lori from Lori J Journals, and I'm going to do a quick make today, repurposing items. April is the month of Earth Week, and a lot of craft groups and journal groups are doing our best to highlight the how much we try to repurpose items and reuse items, especially in junk journaling. Hey, it's a combination of everyone's what is it? Some people's trash is another person's treasure. That and just you don't always have to go out and purchase expensive supplies in order to be creative. That's not to say craft supplies aren't fun, because they are, but you don't always need to buy things. We have a lot of things that would otherwise go in the trash that really can be well used as strong materials for creating. So that's what I'm doing here today. If you've been watching my channel, or you know me, I've been working on a little bit of a reorg of my craft space. I had new shelves hung up in my room, and I've been organizing my jelly prints and my craft papers. And recently I found the cutest thing by Tim Holtz. So these are, he calls them vignettes, card filers. And if you see, they look like this one's still wrapped. They look like those old library card catalog drawers. And the reason I really liked the look of these and ordered them is because I have a lot of tiny little pieces of ephemera and little itty bitty tags, and I feel like they get shoved away under piles, and then they're not present enough when I go to look to make things. So my goal was to get some little items front and center on my desk, and I have a lot more organizing to do, but I'm digging all these little pieces out of my bigger ephemera boxes so that they're front and center and that I can use them more when I'm creating without digging around. So I unwrapped that one, and I was left with so much of this packaging of things we buy is so good for tag making and journal cards and all that, because it's this kind of thicker paper. It's made as packaging, so it's maybe not as thick as some cardstock, but thicker than paper, and it makes it good for sturdy inserts for our journals. So I decided today, originally I look at this package and I'm like, I tend to look at the folds, because often that's a good place to break down a piece of packaging. Like these could be two little journal cards. This could be a tag or a journal card. But then as I was doing that, I thought, these folds make this perfect for a pocket, right? I can fold this up, I can fold this, and then like this. And I've been sitting here in preparation trying to figure out how I wanted to use it. So I can either fold this piece up and fold it over, and this would both be well enforced, and then there could be a slip, a hidden piece of ephemera or small tag, maybe like this could slip in here. Or maybe I would just cut this piece off and create a tag here, and then this could be a small journal card. And I feel like when I fold it over like this, it's a little too thick, so I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to cut this piece off. I am not going to discard that, because of course that's another nice little journal card that I could use for something else. So I'm just going to get this on my paper cutter real quick, cut that piece away, and then I can use that for something else. Now, this makes a perfect pocket. So now I'm left with the notion that this is kind of that glossy, coated paper that you get in packaging. I don't like the glare that glossy, you kind of just lose your your junk journal-y kind of feel to it when it's that glossy. So there are a couple of things you can do. You can sand it down and then paint it. You can cover it with paper or fabric, collage over it, or you can just turn it inside out like that. In which case, I still need to work on this piece, right? So I think I'm going to do it this way because I feel like it's easier to work on this and cover this small piece. I'm going to take my paper cutter away first of all. And I thought what might be fun would be to maybe collage over it with, I have this folder of, so what part of my reorg was creating these folders with all different kinds of papers that I had stacked around, not pads of scrapbook paper and things like that that are already kind of organized, but pieces of things, cutaways and pieces of book pages. And this one has an entire collection of already either smaller jelly prints or broken down pieces. This is a piece of under paper. So I thought I would kind of flip through these and see if there was anything I'd like to put over it. So I can go with kind of a neutral tone here. And this I wouldn't really have to do very much except trim down. So that's a possibility. I thought about this because I'm working on a very light colored journal right now with creams and light pinks. And this might give me the opportunity to make a tag to put in there. Similar color scheme. This is a little piece of jelly printed paper too. I'll leave that there as another option. Or maybe I want to, collage it some more. Make something separate from that journal I'm working on and go with some brighter colors. I don't know, this goes with that too. I'm just going to do kind of a quick flip through and look at some other options. You can see that all of these are, they're part of bigger jelly prints that I cut away to work on other things or to create fodder. And sometimes these are the perfect things to go back to. Like this is a fun not textured, but patterned. It's got a couple of different colors. It was jelly printed onto a book page with a stencil. It's fun. Let's see what else. This is a really, really pale pink. That might be an option with that lighter color scheme. Maybe with something whimsical, circles. I've got pretty turquoise junk mail here if I want to go bright. Some more brights. Some of these are just experiment sheets, right? Like I used a jelly print with a stencil just to see how it would come out. These are really good pieces for small pieces of fodder. That's why I hold on to them. It's also a little walk back through some things I made. That was with actual foliage I took from a walk in my neighborhood. More pieces of under paper, just playing around. A lot of times what I do when I'm using a brush or another mark making tool in paint and I have leftover paint on it, one of the greatest things I heard from another artist, I don't even remember, is never waste your paint, right? You can, A, you don't want to wash it down the drain if you don't have to, and B, why waste it? So just scribble on something and you never know. I mean, this looks kind of silly on its own, but I might break it down into fodder one day, so. I think what I'm going to do is help myself out and stick with that kind of pale pinks and neutrals pattern. Not pattern, but color family, so that I can use this in a journal that I'm trying to finish up. So I'm going to pull all my pinks and my neutrals or my light colors. I'm going to play with those. Oh, and this might be fun too. That was a lace jelly print. All right, so I definitely have enough to work with now. I can set this whole folder aside and I can decide what I want to do here. So let's see. Oh, I lost my, here it is. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to collage it a little. I'm not going to do busy collaging because I think I'm going to want to layer on some scrap pieces and, of course, some scrappy fabrics. So, and I am eventually, my plan is to sew this. That's how I'm going to close my pocket. All right. So let's grab some glue. A couple of different options depending on what I need. And again, I could go with just one solid piece and keep everything the same. And I think I might do that. And here's why. I want the ability to build on top of it, either with some other pieces of this fodder or with scrap pieces and fabrics. So, yeah. So what this really is, if you're looking closely, this isn't a true jelly print. This is actually, I feel like I'm getting shadow here. Let's see if I can fix my light a little bit. Okay, this is roll-off paper, right? So paper you put on the side while you're jelly printing. When you want to get some of the ink or the paint off your brayer, you have a piece of paper on the side. That's what this is. And this is a perfect use for this because it's just going to be background, right? It's not going to, and I think I'm going to save myself some heartache. And I'm going to glue. Well, maybe I will get my paper cutter back out. I always feel like when you're working with straight edges, the less cutting you have to do, the better. It just makes your life easier. So if you can work edge to edge, right? Like put the paper you're looking to glue corner to corner and edge to edge. It also means you don't waste, you don't waste much because you don't have tear away. So I'm just eyeballing so I can get the paper a smaller workable size. I'm working harder as I make more of these videos to make sure that I'm always in camera, always in lens, so you can see what I'm doing. And obviously I didn't do this exact. I left myself a little bit of room just to make sure I got it the right size. And I am going to trim off this white at the bottom. Remembering that this pocket is going to fold up, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like all the way at the bottom. I just don't want extra bulk. Okay, I'm actually going to trim off a teeny bit more. I'm going to try to be a little bit more precise so that I don't have to deal with it after. And I have to be really careful because my paper cutter needs a new blade. I've been chewing up some paper lately, so I'm trying to be really gentle until I can get myself... didn't do that very well, did I? Let's see. That's that problem I've been having with the blade. Yeah. So let's see if I can... I've just been not pressing very hard and being really careful with my paper cutter until I get a new blade. I'd rather trim some excess off than have. And again, the beauty of doing this folding up pocket is any imperfections might be hidden underneath there. All right, I think it's time to glue and then I'll trim the edges afterwards. And I'm thinking now, like I do have the option, since I've decided to do a whole background like that, to fold it inside on itself and have the back white instead of having the packaging on the back. And I think I might do that actually, because then I can decorate on here, and I think I am going to do that. But I've found that adhesive will stick much better when you sand off some of the gloss here. So I just have a piece of sandpaper, and I just steal this from my husband's garage, from his workbench. Oh, it's nothing special. And all I'm really doing is trying to scrape up and make this not feel so slick. I'm not worried about what it looks like. It's going to get covered up. But I'm scratching it up because I think that when it's not as glossy and it's got a little bit of grit to it, that the adhesive sticks better. I'm just going to take a piece of my scrap cloth here. I think I have a little piece of denim. I do. And I'm just going to, you know, wipe off some of the dust so it doesn't prevent the adhesive from sticking. And it looks like not much, but look at this piece of denim. It does come off, okay? So I could go a little longer, get a little bit more of the gloss off, and I think I'm going to do that in the fold right here where it's real glossy. But again, this is not about how it looks. It's just about giving your adhesive a tackier surface, okay? As I mentioned, I am going to stitch along the edges when I'm finished, so I'm not going to worry too much about, you know, if it's super tacky. I find when I'm gluing like this on light paper, so this was originally probably like computer paper, onto thick cardstock like this, that the glue sticks aren't the best. They stick real nice when you're doing it, and later it lifts a little bit. So I'm going to go with, I watched a video on Just Lane. She did a live, Linda on Just Lane did a live last night on different glues and how they work. And of course, addressed the fact that different glues work differently depending on your environment, your climate, your altitude, humidity. Linda lives in Florida, so do I. And sometimes the humidity makes it difficult. Some of our crafting friends in Texas have expressed that Fabri-Tac doesn't work very well there. I find that 3-in-1 doesn't work very well here, depending on what you're doing. So you just have to go with what works best where you are. And some of that is trial and error, right? We try and we find what works best for what we're doing. Also, of course, your substrate matters too. If you're using paper versus fabric, different things will work better. I love Fabri-Tac for gluing embellishments onto paper. Sometimes when you're trying to put something more 3D, like, for example, I have some of these flowers like this, and you're trying to glue them onto something flat, a big blob of Fabri-Tac and then holding your finger down on it for a little bit seems to work really well. Now, if I was a perfectionist, I shouldn't say that because I am a perfectionist, but I've been learning to let go, so I'm trying not to be. I didn't get this edge right where I wanted it to be, a little bit sticking out. If I wanted to stress about it, I could trim it all down. I'm not going to worry about it for now. Again, I said I was going to stitch down here. And I also lately have found that I really like rounding my corners. I don't have my corner cutter handy right now, but and I might do that. So I'm not going to worry about it for right now. I'm going to work blankly. Now, I am going to trim this down, this piece of the collage paper that is hanging over the edge. Okay, so doesn't look like anything special right now, does it? But it's a nice background. I'm gonna get my bone folder out and just do a little. There is some texture in the layering of the paint, so it's not gonna sit totally flat, and that's okay. I'm good with that. I just didn't want the paper to come up. All right, so that's where I am so far. Haven't gotten very far yet, but the next thing I want to think about is, do I want to bring a deeper color? I also want to trim this real quick. Do I want to bring a deeper color into it, right? Do I want to bring more pink in it? Do I want to bring another color? I'm working on a journal that's lots of pale pinks, and it's kind of like a romantic color scheme. Light pinks, creamy. So I could bring something dark, a little bit darker into this, but I fear that that looks a little too bold for what I'm trying to accomplish with that journal. And again, I still have to work on this, so I have other options too. But I think I like a little bit of this. I'm just going to start playing around. This lace jelly printing I did. Okay, and as I'm doing this, I'm going to think out loud with you because that's the whole point here. I'm realizing that I'm going to be slipping tags or some other ephemera in here. So sometimes when I'm thinking about it and I want to decorate something, I feel like, oh, I'll decorate the back of this. I'll layer onto it. And then I remember that's really going to become a hassle when I'm trying to slip things into my pocket. So I'm actually going to decide not to do that. What I might do is smudge a little more paint on here, add some stamping or something, but I'm going to hold off for that right now. Right now I want to worry about this part. And this is the front of the pocket. And unless I create a mini pocket on top of it, nothing's going to slip into there. So I can really do anything I want there. I just want to make sure that it goes nicely with this pink. So maybe I'll use some of, I think I like that. And I think I'm going to take this bigger piece instead though. This little one can always go back into my scrap pile, so I'm not going to get rid of that. And if I did something like that, and I think I do like that. All right, so I know that this is the same size. I'm going to use that as a guide. And I don't want the complete shape. I think it's too wide for this, so I don't want to try. Right, when you try too hard to fit and it doesn't, it looks like you meant to fit it and didn't. Whereas if you cut it in the middle and you don't try to make it fit, then it doesn't look like you missed the mark. Right? It looks random, but it looks random on purpose. Doesn't look random on purpose. I don't know. Maybe I'm just babbling and that doesn't make sense, but yeah, so I made it a little, I didn't make it quite wide enough, which is okay, because I think I can embellish some more, like over here. So, and actually, you know, here's the thing, when I collage, I tend to not like straight edges. So I think I'm okay with this, and I'll just use something else too. Yeah, I think that looks kind of pretty. And maybe what I'll do is take some of this. That. I really love when edges are uneven like that and they have a nice, like, the word I'm going to is fluffy, but that's not the word I mean, but it's a real soft kind of, it gets a little bit soft from the rip and it looks great on the edges. Now, I have to remember that I'm going to want to slip things in there. So I don't want it to stick up too much. And for this, I don't have a glossy side. I'm going to use my glue stick. And here's the thing about using the glue stick that I love is it doesn't dry super quickly. So you can move things around a little and then you can go back and reinforce with another glue. So the glue stick gives you the ability to work a little more slowly and be a little more intentional. Where's that piece I had? Okay, so it looks a little too blending to me. I'm going to play around a little bit more. I actually like that. And I think I'm going to just make a mini collage on this pocket fold. Why not? Just going to go with it. And I'm going to pull down my, excuse my reach across the camera. I'm going to pull down my little pieces of, these are, gosh, what, scrap bowl. This is a true blue scrap bowl. Ooh, I like that with a little piece of writing on it. I don't like the straight edge so much, but that's a possibility. These scrap bowls are a lifesaver. Again, taking something that might have ended up in the trash can and giving it new life. Oh, I love this. I'm going to add a little piece of writing from this tiny little piece of book page. And normally I would be kind of hung up on the white at the bottom, but I'm really not. Kind of like it, actually. And I can always go in with my finger and some gesso and paint and collaging is very experimental. It's kind of make it as you go. And it's nice, again, when you use the glue stick, you have much more freedom to kind of move things around, slide things around if you don't like them, peel them back, put the edge of something under another piece instead of over. I love that too. Oh, here, this is a really cool piece of mulberry paper. This is a piece of light vellum. I don't know if you, let's see if I can get something under it so you can really see it. It's kind of like a negative of a flower hanging on a tree. And the writing is really tiny, but it says, "Find beauty everywhere." And I really like it there, with the exception of one thing. It's giving me more straight edges, and that's kind of bothering me. But I do think I like it there. You know, collaging is all about layering, and I really like the way that looks. So, and what I've done is I'm setting the word everywhere right in that white spot at the bottom of the book page, so you can really see it, and it fills up some of that white. Now, I have found that vellum can be hard to make stick. So once I've really set it down, I'm going to reinforce it with my fine point glitter glue. And sometimes I have to go back and do it. It's, yeah, on this side I do. Sometimes I have to go back and do it again. That doesn't bother me. Mixing and matching glue sometimes really helps you. Now, with this pocket, right, this is the fold. I'm working in this little area as collage. And sometimes you can get caught up with trimming everything right as you're going. But I've seen where a lot of people work the collage and then trim the edges. Just helps you get like a really good feel for how everything's going. And sometimes the folded over edge looks prettier than a chopped cut edge. But remember, I was planning to, and let's see. remember I was planning to stitch down here. So I am gonna just, even if I end up cutting it off later, I'm gonna glue this down because again, I worry about the vellum. Just the sticking quality isn't that good with it. And that way it'll be secured until I do my stitching later. All right, we're getting close. I'm gonna trim these edges now. I feel like I'm ready to do that and get a look at what this looks like. Trim this one. Well, I'm gonna glue this one over too. And I think it looks really pretty, actually. Still wondering about the blend here. I can ink it. Maybe that's an idea. And I think I'm going to put some sort of embellishment on here. A little piece of fabric. Let's ink it first. So in this journal that I've been working on, I've been using a lot of tea dye. Oh, sorry about the camera shake. So I'm going to go with the tea dye. I think it'll help create a little bit of contrast. And if it's not dark enough, I may go back and add a little bit of one of my browns. I'm also a little concerned about this jagged edge. I absolutely love the way it looks. I don't know how it's going to survive when the pocket is put together and I'm trying to put other tags or ephemera in there. I'm going to give this one more hit with the ink. And I am starting to think that it's best to trim it down. Very sad because I love that edge, but I think in the long run, it'll be better for the pocket and the ephemera that's going in there. All right, so now I'm gonna really ink it some more. And I don't have to be as gentle because there's nothing hanging off. All right, I think that now gives me kind of the contrast I was looking for so that you can see where the pocket is as opposed to the background. Feel pretty good about that. You can see I'm kind of a slob when I'm working. I think a lot of us do this, right? We have everything open and out all over the place. I try when I'm doing a video to keep a little bit tighter so that all of the stuff on my desk isn't a distraction to what's happening. All right, so I think I'm mostly there. I do want to add my next, let me close up my glue so I don't dry everything out. And I think I want to add some fabric embellishment. I know I kind of like this. It's a little shiny, but this Tim Holtz fabric, man, it was in my last video. It keeps showing up. It wants a home on one of my makes, that's for sure. Ooh, I could use, oh yes, I think I just decided what I want to do. Arlene from Creating in the Waiting makes these amazing, she prints words on fabric, okay? And I've shown these on a video before. She makes these gorgeous clusters. Not right for this because it would cover the whole thing, the whole collage I just did. Hold on to these. But she also prints just words on fabric. And I've pulled them apart very carefully to make them nice and scrappy, because scrappy and shabby, you know, is my thing. But I got to think about what I want the sentiment to be. Whoops. So I may pull one from another. I recently purchased a couple more sheets from her. These aren't cut up yet. But let's see. Now, this is a relatively small spot, and I'm looking to put something right around here. And I might layer it, because I love to layer. So I am thinking, I love these words so much. And I laugh when I told her last time I ordered some, I'm always afraid to use them because then I won't have them anymore. I know that's silly, right? Where you kind of hoard the things that you love because you don't want to not have them. But if you don't use them, what's the point of having them, right? So I think, so we have the bold word everywhere here. We have some script writing here. I'm trying to decide which type, which font would make most sense here. So this is about find beauty everywhere. This is a romantic-y kind of. So I'm thinking either growth in this fancy writing here or love in this cursive up here. And I think that I'm going to use love. Hey, you know, love is everywhere. So you get to see, if you buy these from Arlene, again, it's Arlene at Creating in the Waiting, and she uses the lovely open use print words from Pink Monarch prints. So Pink Monarch is on Etsy. Arlene is Creating in the Waiting on YouTube and SavageArt on Facebook. And I have a very specific way I do this. I've shown this on videos before, I think. There's not a lot of space here and I want it to be scrappy. So I take my very sharp scissors, which you have to be careful. I have cut myself. I did one the other day. And you want to poke a hole right in between the two words. Just drag your scissors carefully. Look at that, beautiful. Because of the fabric that she uses, which by the way is so soft and it shreds beautifully like this. I forgot we were using love, not hope. You could really use either one. Now I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing very, very carefully. Poke a hole and drag it through. And by the way, a lot of the scraps in my bowl are these little pieces that get cut away when I'm done cutting the word apart. And I love those too. And they are so soft and so scrappy. All right. So I've gotten love off. I haven't ruined any of the other words, which is great. I have had one word sacrifice that I messed up earlier. That's the one in my bowl here that we pulled out somewhere. All right, so I want to use love. I'm going to do the same thing to get rid of the little scrap piece, which is going to have a nice home in my scrap bowl, and it will find its way into another project. This is a little harder when the pieces are small. All right, look how beautiful, and if you could feel how soft it is, this tiny little, I like it. All right, so now I'm just trying to decide if I want to layer, because I do love to layer. I could take that same piece that I cut off. I don't know if there's enough contrast there. Maybe there is. Ooh, that creates a pretty layering effect. I'm going to do one more spot check of my scrap bowl to see if there's something I like better, or that maybe has. Ooh, this is another little piece of that Tim Holtz. Told you it really wants a home in my. I could cut a piece off of this. That's what I'm going to do. I already love it. I don't even have to think twice about it. Cut this one in half. Also very soft and scrappy. And maybe not. Again, I'm not thrilled with the lack of contrast. Let's see what happens if I do this, because what's another layer, right? Or maybe this needs to go on top here. I feel like layering fabric takes a lot of practice. I have a video coming up for a group that I'm doing, so I don't want to steal away too much of that, but there's no, like, I don't know. I'm a creative self-taught mixed media creator, and there may be a real a real artist side to collage. I go by what looks good to me, right? Do I want another piece of lace of that? Let's see. So this is one of those things where you're like, do I want to use that? It hides it away. Is it worth putting it on here if it's barely going to show? But it does create some more texture. The thing I don't love about it is it's shiny. I'm not loving the shiny. But if I decide to put, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. All right, so a couple of options here. I've got this cluster, this mini cluster that I'm going to put on here. I can take the whole thing over to the sewing machine, unfold it, and put a little stitch in it to hold it. Or I can peel everything off and start gluing it. Pros and cons. If I stitch it, there's going to be a stitching inside here that could catch things as I put them in the pocket later. I don't really know that that would happen, but I don't want to take any chances. So here's what I'm going to do. I've seen like the reverse glue of a collage. Have you ever seen that? Now that you've got this cluster together and you want it to go right the way you want it, start from the top and glue down. And that way you don't have to take everything off and lose your collage. Lose your layering exactly the way you want it. I feel okay taking the major part of the cluster off and putting this on first, just to get it down as an anchor. And as much as I'd like to stitch, because I love the way it looks, I don't want to create that problem where something that goes in the pocket later will get caught on it. So I'm going to hold this and just see. Yeah, I think that's good right there. And this is tacky glue. For me, this might be one of the most useful and versatile glues. I use this much more than I use Fabri-Tac. I use Fabri-Tac for very specific purposes. I use these two glues the most. And tacky glue I use for everything. Art glitter glue when I would like to be using tacky glue, but I need a much more fine or small point. I switch to glitter glue. I don't know, that's just my preference. People ask, so I like to share. All right, and then this cluster, I decided I wanted like this. So for this, I am going to go top to bottom. So I'm going to put I'm using the glitter glue for that fine point. This is a small piece. And of course, I think I'm a little clogged. Let's see. There we go. It doesn't take much, especially in the beginning, just to make sure everything's in the right place. All right, I love this cluster. And again, I can go back in and add some more glue in spots if I feel like it's not secure enough. But part of not gluing everything down so hard is you get that kind of fluffed out layered texture, which is what I love. And when you put too much glue, it mats everything down and it looks really flat, and I'd rather not do that. I'm also going to grab my Fabri-Tac because I do want to add this cute little rose pink embellishment. And you see I'm going to put a big, kind of a big blob of Fabri-Tac on because I feel like it really helps it stay. I'm going to gently hold this down for a minute or two. And I'm grabbing my bone folder because there is a little bit of a blob that came out and I don't want that to show. The thing with Fabri-Tac is I find when you have something that's pretty 3D, for lack of it, has a large texture to it, it needs a minute under your finger to really hold it in. I love the way this looks already. The last thing to do is to stitch it. I'm going to, whoops, excuse the crash under my desk. I'm going to step away and to the side at my sewing machine, take care of this, and then we'll have a finished product. And I am going to sew all the way down the edge, even where there's nothing to hold together. I just like the way it looks. It keeps the whole look really consistent. And I'm going to do a nice zigzag. Now, I'm always torn about whether to go along the bottom edge, the fold of the pocket, because you don't need the stitch there. And if you stitch there, you might close the pocket up a little and make it a smaller pocket, right? Like the pocket's not as deep if you stitch because you take away a little bit of it. But you know what? I really like it. I want it to look finished, so I'm going to do that anyway. And I'll be back to show you in just a sec. Almost finished. Okay, so here we are. It's all finished. And I'm noticing these terrible shadows. I'm sorry, I have to work on my lighting in here, but so now it's finished. Couple lessons learned I want to share. This always happens as you're working, right? And if we're not learning, then we're not living, right? So I did have to kind of hold this to the side while I was sewing. So lesson learned number 1, it might have been a good idea to sew before I before I started collaging. I am going to hit this with a teeny bit more of glue because pulling it up while I was sewing just kind of gave it a little bit of a fold that I don't want. I'm also really pretty new to sewing. So you can see I'm not always perfect. I did not get a great edge here. It makes it look like my paper's cut crooked, but it's actually not because that's the way it came to us, the package. It's my stitching that's crooked, but I'm not going to sweat it, right? Because I've been saying a lot. I don't remember where I got it. Embrace imperfection, because why not? Second thing I want to share is I did decide to go all the way around, and a lot of times I'll go down or up on both sides so that it gets scrappiness on both sides. But with this down here from the collage, you know, the layered fabric, I really didn't want it coming down both sides. So I went all the way around so that all of my beginning scrap and my end scrap would be in the same corner. Okay. And the last thing I could have done better probably is to create that little, I always forget what it's called, but the little cutout here, like the half circle or the half moon, so that it's easier to get things in here. But I don't think I'm going to have the problem. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Let's just grab a blank tab from my stash. Yeah, it goes in super easy. All right. So happy belated Earth Day. And here's my repurposed, just a reminder what it was. It was this packaging from this Tim Holtz. I cut one edge off. I created a pocket. And now I have a piece for my journal. Thanks for watching. Please click like, provide feedback. I love hearing from you about what I could do better, or what you already like. And sure, if you feel like it, hit subscribe. I'm not going to worry too much about that, but I'd love to have you back.